Mastering Your Length Revisited. Nearly a year ago, one of my first videos was Mastering Your Length. It proved to be my most viewed video, and I believe this is due to its importance in your game of bowls. Welcome to Bowls Theory of Everything. The first and most important thing to do to get the right length is look at the jack very carefully before you bowl. You have to get a vision of the jack sitting in its place down the rink firmly in your mind. This must be the last thing you do before you take aim down your line. Getting that mental image of the jack is the most important thing you do in your pre-delivery routine. The reason for this is that the rest of your routine is already set. The way you grip and deliver your bowl should already be under control when you step onto the mat. They're already built in, part of your muscle memory. You know the line you take on your home rink, and on an away rink, you should sort that out in the first few deliveries. The length, however, is different every time you step onto the mat. You might think you know the length, but there are always subtle differences such as mat placements and speed of the green. You need to look at the jack long enough for it to register in your mind. A cursory glance may not be enough. Do not be distracted after looking at the jack. If you are, reset your delivery. In summary, clear your mind totally in order to give 100% concentration on the jack. Do not be thinking about anything else. So if I show you before you bowl, before you step up to the mat, the rink's free, you make sure you've got your grip right and you know where you're going to aim, so you step onto the mat and point down the line you're going to aim. And at that point, look at the jack carefully, fix it, and then only at the last minute do you look down where you're going to bowl for the shot. So you don't do it the other way round. You don't think, oh, I'll step on, look at the jack, and then you start turning, because the last thing in your mind should be the jack. That gives you your length. If you cast the jack, you have an advantage as you already have a feel for the length. Otherwise, take note of the jack position well before you bowl. So if the other person's set the jack, you have a look without interfering with them. Have a look where it is carefully so you get a feel for it, and show an interest on how the head develops so you do not arrive on the mat cold. You don't want to be chatting away and then step up to the mat unprepared. There are occasions when the jack is hidden. In that case, use an alternative target, e.g. a jack-high bowl. So imagine the jack's there, and there's a bowl jack-high. You're coming from the other end, take that as your length. It's a good alternative. Use exactly the same technique as if your target bowl is the jack length. What can then go wrong? Optical illusions. There are several situations that distort your view of the jack. Your brain sees an object not exactly like a camera. It uses other visual clues to interpret the image that hits your retina. Example, short bowls. Yard short, 4 feet short, and might be 1, 2, 3. These can distract you and indeed attract your bowls like a magnet. When the jack is on the tee, the background of the bank, chairs, tables, other bowlers, it fools you sometimes into thinking the jack is longer than it is. So if the mat is up the rink and you're bowling to the jack on the tee, it's not a full length jack. But because you're looking at a jack near the ditch, 2 meters up from the ditch, with all the usual visual clues down there. Sometimes those visual clues go into your mind and say, the jack's on the tee, it's a long one, when in fact the map has shortened that jack, so be careful of that. A third illusion is when you switch lengths. After a few full length bowls, sometimes for a change and to change the swing of the game, the skip will call for a shorter jack. Shorter jack goes up. It might be 5 yards shorter, and immediately people panic. They say, watch out, short jack, like that. But it may still be 4 meters over the minimum. What I'm saying is it's a comparative. So you might think from a long jack coming up the rink, you've shortened it, but you've only half shortened it. So beware, because quite often you think it's a short jack and you bowl short. So look carefully at the jack. Sight problems. Long or short-sightedness can lead to underweighted or overweighted bowls. For example, cataracts can reduce contrast and make the jack look blurred, and that could lead to overweighted bowls. How do we overcome these optical problems? Look carefully at the jack, not at surrounding objects that can distort or distract you. Get feedback from your skip about your length. They will be able to say whether you're a yard or a short, yard long, 2 feet, etc. Another way is to get the exact length of the jack from the tee to how far up the rink. So, for example, the middle jack up there is 5 meters up the rink. So the skip can call out, I'm 5 meters up. If your mat is on the tee here, then you know you are 5 meters off our maximum of 32. You'll be bowling 27 meters. However, if your mat is 2 meters up, you'll only be bowling 25 meters and so on. Having that number of meters in your mind, even though you can't see them, can help your mind produce what the body needs to get to that correct length. Right, a one length bowler, what is that? I think a one length bowler is somebody who tends to bowl in the middle of the rink. They bowl short on the long jack and they bowl long to the short jack. They don't go to the extremes. Hopefully what I've suggested will solve this problem, i.e. look carefully at the jack and feel the length. Get the vision of that jack into your mind, your body will adjust. The total movement will adjust automatically. So automatically the length of your swing and the length of your stride will go longer or shorter depending whether the jack is long or short. That's all controlled from the mind. However, if you're still having a bother getting right up to the full length jack or coming short enough for the short jack, you might have to exaggerate your delivery and have a reset, and actually for the long jack consciously extend everything, or for the short jack consciously contract everything. That will give you a reset. One general rule: you have to know exactly how you've bowled each bowl in order that you can make an adjustment. Therefore, you have to concentrate on every delivery. If you bowl it without knowing exactly where you're bowling, you haven't concentrated on the length, then you haven't got a reference point to make a correction. And here's an oddity which is related to that. Have you ever put your first bowl right on the jack and your next bowls, 2 bowls, nowhere near the jack? Why is that? Well, this relates to that point I made. If you are conscious and concentrated on that first bowl, you'd know exactly how you delivered it, and your second bowl would be close. But if it's kind of a random delivery out of your selection of bowls, well, you're not going to repeat it. You sometimes see somebody bowl 2 yards away from the jack, and their next bowl goes exactly on the same spot their first bowl did. That's the sort of thing, it's in their muscle memory and they haven't overridden it. But I'm going to be talking about muscle memory in my next video. But I'll now move on to drills that you can have. And this is one I did in my first video. You just have 3 jacks there and you try and alternate one to the other. This forces a 5-meter adjustment, or if you go from the long to the short, a 9-meter or 9.5-meter adjustment. You know roughly the line. I'm now on the line. I'm now concentrating on the jack. And I'm going for the middle jack. I'm looking carefully at the middle jack. And the last minute I go down the line. And it's going well. Okay, so that's the middle length. I'm now going to switch to the long length. Concentrate on the jack. I've got the line previously. Bit narrow, but I think the length is quite good. The length is good, a bit tight though, but length is good. I now switch to the short one. Concentrate on this short one very hard. Again, a bit tight, so I haven't really got my line right, but you can see I've got the length. So that's a drill. In fact, often I have the mat a yard up, so I think I was taking my line a bit narrow, but you can see I've got the length on all 3 of those. I'm now going to do one last demonstration. I did this on the original video that I did, where I shut my eyes to show you how you can get something in your mind, and that's your mind is controlling. And I'm going to add something to this demo that I didn't do last time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 bowls and shut my eyes before I bowl the first bowl and leave them shut while I do the second bowl. And I'm going to aim to bowl the second bowl a yard past the first bowl. So in other words, I'm going to get my mind, if you like, to control that extra yard without seeing what I'm doing. Right, here's a demonstration. So I've lined up. I've got the second bowl there, so I can feel for it. The main thing is to add a yard. So wherever the first one ends up, I'll be adding a yard. But approximately, I'm aiming for the short jack. And now I'm going to shut my eyes and we'll see how close I get to it. Here I go. I'm shutting my eyes now. I don't know where that went. Approximately the same line, I hope. And just see if I can add a yard to my last bowl. Without looking, I think I've probably added 2 yards. I'll open my eyes now. Yes, I've gone. That's a demonstration of the power of the mind and the fact that you have to internalize and use that rather than just work from the extremes of your body back to the mind. It's the other way around. You get it into your mind will control your body. So the conclusion is, look carefully at the jack and keep practicing. About 20 minutes is good, at least, if you can. And please subscribe or comment on anything you've seen today. And power of the mind, that's the secret. Next video will be the muscle memory that goes together with the mind to make up the complete technique. Thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye.